Hello and welcome to another episode of Buy, Avoid or Wait for Sale, and in this episode I'll be talking about the Ascent, which is an Xbox and PC exclusive and is available on Xbox Game Pass and Steam. At the time of making this video I haven't actually completed the game yet, but I've been playing for roughly 10 plus hours, so I've got a good feel for the game, the story, the upgrades, weapons and mechanics, and the crazy action that you find in the game. But I've also ran into some bugs and multiple crashes and seen some things that I really didn't like. But before I get started, can I ask you to hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, watch till the end of the video, and also click the like button. Right, let's get into it. The Ascent is an action RPG twin-stick shooter set in a cyberpunk world. You play as a worker enslaved by the Ascent group, who basically owns everyone in the district. Now, one day the Ascent group shuts down for some unknown reasons, and you go on a series of missions to find out why. To be honest, the game's story wasn't really that interesting to me. I found myself skipping through most cutscenes as they were just standing in the way between me and the action. And this is something I don't usually do, but in this game it's mostly just a list of subjects for you to click on and some poor voice acting as a character reads through some dialogue. It's bad enough when it's human characters, but when it's an alien speaking to you in some weird alien language with you having to read subtitles, nah, I'm skipping past that. And the protagonist doesn't actually have any dialogue, which made it harder for me to get into the story. Nah, storytelling isn't really one of the game's strengths from what I've played so far, but its biggest strength is the action, and that's what's kept me coming back for more. Now, twin stick shooters aren't really something that I play much of. In fact, the last one I played was one on the iPhone years ago, when I still played games on my mobile. So although I was interested in this one, I wasn't actually sure if it was for me. In fact, I uninstalled the game after struggling with the controls for about 30 minutes, both with the Xbox One controller and then with the keyboard and mouse. I gave it a second chance the following day, and I've been hooked ever since. When playing with the controller, the left stick is used for movement, while the right stick is used for aiming, and the right trigger is used to shoot. What threw me off was that when you pull in the left trigger, your character will aim high, resulting in shooting over the heads of your enemies and missing your targets. The aim high feature is there because the map is multi-leveled, and you will sometimes have enemies attacking you when coming downstairs. You can also duck behind cover, so the left trigger is used to pop the gun above cover and shoot. It's definitely something I wasn't expecting, and it works really well. There's also a dodge button which allows you to dive and roll away from your enemy's attacks. One thing I wish they would have added is a sprint button, as I found myself unable to get away from a few big bosses' enemy fire, which resulted in me dying lots and lots of times. All weapons I've come across so far have unlimited ammo, and you only need to stop shooting to reload. And there's a good variety of weapons as well. So far I've used hand cannons, assault rifles, heavy duty machine guns, shotguns, rocket launchers from fallen mechs, and the one that was pointless to me was a sniper rifle, as there's no aiming down sights in a twin stick shooter with a top down view. Some weapons have special features like incendiary rounds, which slowly burn away at your target's shield and health. I found this useful against some of the tougher enemies, as I would just shoot them and set them on fire, then run for cover and let the fire do most of the damage. As well as an arsenal of weapons to choose from, there's also tactical items to use in combat. You've got things like shockwave, EMP and frag grenades, automatic turrets, and these are just ones I found so far. You can carry one of these tactical items along with two weapons, and they need to be charged up before you can use them. They're charged up by you getting kills, and also by picking up tactical charges dropped by dead enemies, found in crates and bought from vending machines. Once your tactical is charged, you can use it by pressing down the left trigger. Both weapons and gadgets can be found around the district, and you can buy them from vendors, or you can pick them up from dead enemies. You can also carry up to 2 augments, which can be activated by pressing either the left or right bumper. These include abilities like making enemies inflate and explode on death, and being able to send out a load of kamikaze spider bots which explode when they reach their targets. These also need to recharge after you use them, and can be very useful when you're completely surrounded in a gunfight. I've come across a decent variety of enemies as well. You've got the street thugs who will actually warn you to turn back when you enter their area. I always end up just shooting at them and get into a massive gunfight. You've got enemies that will rush you with swords, and some enemies actually have cloaking devices as well, making them invisible. There are these alien creatures called Feral that are basically just a rip-off of the wretches from Gears of War, but they'll swarm you when you go into their environment. And you've also got mechs to fight. Now, that's just what I found so far, but who knows what's waiting for me. When you get into a gun battle, the enemies will come at you from every direction. They're actually very good at flanking you most of the time. Some will also duck down behind cover, forcing you to come out of cover to kill them. One weird thing I noticed though is that enemies will chase you to certain areas and then will just turn around and run back to their section if they step out of their zone. Some also seem to recharge their health when returning to their zone, and I don't know if this was intentional or a bug, but it got frustrating. Their health may recharge, but my character's health doesn't, so it made some sections more difficult than they needed to be. Also, when you run into enemies that are a much higher level than you, it usually ends up with a one-shot kill, but I'll get into that later. The soundtrack for the game actually fits the theme very well for it being a cyberpunk world. The music that's playing when you're just exploring the district gave me Blade Runner vibes, and when the action starts, the music really starts pumping and it gets you immersed into the action. Now let's talk about some of the game's issues, and let's start with the map and waypoint. So you can select missions and side missions and then set a waypoint by pressing up on the D-pad. You could also call a taxi by pressing left on the D-pad and select the area you want to travel to. But let's talk more about the waypoint system. It doesn't work well. It's led me to so many dead ends that I thought it was made by TomTom. It's led me to dead ends, broken bridges that I can't cross, but the most frustrating one was how it led me to the final objective of a side mission, only to find that there's no prompt to press a button to perform a final task. And this was no simple mission. I shot my way through loads of tough enemies and died multiple times, came up with different strategies to survive, killed some bastard enemies, and get to the finishing line only to find out that I can't complete the mission due to a bug. And it's happened with a few missions. For one, I actually had to quit the game and load it again just so that it would start a cutscene for me to face the boss for that mission. And graphically, it looks great. My graphics card can't handle ray tracing, so I'll probably be playing it again when I finally manage to get hold of a newer graphics card. But another thing I noticed was that if I switch on DirectX 12, it automatically turns on ray tracing. And I found this strange because with other games, it can actually detect that ray tracing isn't a feature on my card. When switching it off and even lowering the settings, the game just wasn't running smoothly. it was also using up a lot of system resources, making it damn near impossible to record gameplay. And considering I've been able to run games like Doom Eternal and Cyberpunk 2077 with this same setup without any issues, I was surprised that the Ascent was the one that was giving me so many problems. I actually had to drop it back down to DirectX 11 with a mixture of high and medium settings just to be able to capture the footage that you're seeing in this video. Now, this is with the Game Pass for PC version, but I'm not sure if the same issues apply with the Steam version of the game, as I've heard it actually runs much better with that launcher. Even after switching to DirectX 11, it still crashes occasionally, but it's not as bad as before. Another issue I have is with the placement of some enemies. I mentioned earlier that there are enemies that are able to one-shot kill you as they are much higher level. Now, in most games, they'll put them in areas that you don't want to explore until you've leveled up, or put them in high level missions. On some occasions, I found them in my way when heading to a lower level mission. For example, I was heading to a mission that had a recommended character level of 12, and I was at that character level. Right in front of the mission objective, I saw some level 21 enemies, and they killed me with a single shot. I have noticed that if you manage to push your way through enough enemies, when you die, it will sometimes respawn you further along the area, and you won't have to face that group of enemies again. But I've also noticed that it will sometimes respawn you in between enemies that you've previously killed and tougher enemies that killed you, meaning that when you start shooting, you'll get attacked from both directions. I also found some issues with some of the pieces of gear that I tried to equip. When selecting headgear, most of the time it wouldn't display on my character, but I seem to still get the same benefits of the gear. Other gear for legs and torso seemed to display fine though, even though my character literally had no style because the gear just looked crap. So now it's time for the verdict. Should you buy, avoid, or wait for a sale? The Ascent is a game that's definitely rough around the edges and has some issues that need to be fixed, but it's still a fun game. The gameplay is addictive and it's getting harder the further into the game I go. The story is basic and, to be honest, nothing special, but I compare this to games like Doom, where the story takes a backseat while the gameplay, gets you hooked. If you have Game Pass, it's kind of a no-brainer because you've already got access to this in your subscription. If you're someone who prefers to own your games and wants to buy it, I still recommend giving this game a try. It's already pretty cheap. It's £25 on the Microsoft Store if you don't have Game Pass. It's also £25 on Steam, but at the time of making this review, there's a small discount available. If you're currently working through a bunch of other games and you're just curious, you can wait for a sale and see how much it drops to. I've also included some links below for if you do want to buy the Steam version with a better discount. So make sure to check out these deals. However, or whenever you want to get it, the game is definitely worth getting if you're into fast-paced action games, even if you're not into twin-stick top-down shooters. Right, so if you made it this far, I'm guessing you found the video useful, so please do me a favor and click the like button because it really does help out the video and the channel. Also, click the subscribe button if you're new and click the notification bell so you see when I upload new content. I'm currently live streaming twice a week, as well as making walkthrough videos, reviews, and sometimes previews. So check out some of my other content and see if there's anything you like. Thanks for watching.